in, and very happy to have them together to present as one. Very unified front. So we have got a couple of apologies here this morning, but we have Councillor Sally unfortunately unable to attend, and hopefully Councillor Ladson and Councillor James will be joining us at some point this morning as well. We also have Councillor Bella on the screen behind you.
Hello.
Excellent, joining us from down in Melbourne. And so how this works is that we'll give you, being combined, we've got a 20-minute sort of time slot, 10 minutes for each appointment, but we'll give you sort of 10 to 15 minutes to do your presentation part of it, and then we'll make sure we allow room at the end of it for councillors to ask any questions or clarifying some points that we need to make sure we get before you leave the room. So I welcome Anne, David and Susanna to the room, and I don't think there's any other details I've missed, so I will pass it over to you all to do as you will.
Thank you. I might start by acknowledging the traditional owners of the land that we meet on, and particularly so given that this morning is a commemoration of the apology to the stolen generations, and thank Council for its ongoing commitment to ensuring that Aboriginal people in this community both have a voice and are respected and included. That isn't necessarily given in all places, and so I'm conscious that this community does a better job than many in making that possible. I'd like to thank you for the opportunity to speak with the councillors today about the proposal to sell land at Parkside Drive for use as an early parenting centre. Our organisation, Family Care, has provided a written submission outlining our interest in the matter as a long-term early years service provider and one of a range of community advocates for the development of an early parenting centre in Shepparton. We hope councillors have found the historical material provided with our submission useful, although historical in the sense that it draws on some reports from 2015. No disrespect to anyone else around the room, but I'm sure many of you like me feel like 2015 was just yesterday. That background underscores that our community has known about the service gap an early parenting centre will address for a considerable period of time. We're grateful the government agreed providing funding in the 2022 state budget. As part of the service system that has provided our community with the best support we can and warm referral where that what was required could only be delivered elsewhere, Family Care's key messages for councillors today are: we must work together to get this done, and now that resourcing is available, we must aim for the best, most effective outcome. Family Care's considered view is that Parkside Drive is not an adequate or appropriate location for this vital infrastructure. There are a range of reasons, but in short, location matters for a service of this type. Consistent with the locations of similar services run by specialist agencies like QEC and Tweddle, the ideal place for an early parenting facility is close to a range of other services, including retail options and cafes. It is important to help parents and carers for whom early parenting may be isolating or overwhelming feel connected physically, not just theoretically. Being able to easily go for a walk, connect with public transport, or just get a coffee is more than just a lifestyle convenience. In this context, it has therapeutic potential. We do not want people to feel separate from their community but embraced by it. The Parkside Drive proposal does not satisfy these needs. Although it's only 2.6 kilometres from the centre of Shepparton, it is not well served by appropriate walking access, nor are bus options adequate. The GB Health main campus is slightly closer in the event of escalated medical needs, but there are few, if any, proximate relevant community services. I provide this statement today as the CEO of an agency that has provided day-stay services in this community for almost 30 years. There are colleagues of mine at Family Care who know much more about those services' current demand and impacts. A little short of 20 years ago, however, my wife and I attended a service similar to the proposed Shepparton Early Parenting Centre in Canberra with our first daughter. I would like to think that we were not bad parents, but as many find, the first few months of looking after a new baby can be exciting, joyous, terrifying and exhausting all at once. We still talk about how important that support was for all of us, and I think it's fabulous that Shepparton will be getting something similar. But do want to leave you with the message that we should do this together and we should do it properly.
Susanna, did you want
I've got a separate submission.
to? So, okay, so we will do so. No worries. Do any of the councillors have any clarifying points or questions they'd like to ask? Dean?
Yes, thank you, David, I agree with you. This has to be a joint effort. All stakeholders involved. Now, one of the major objections, as you just pointed out, was the lack of a cafe, so to speak, or some sort of a facility where people can relax and unwind while they're waiting for the service to be delivered or between appointments or whatever it may be. Now, from what I understand, this is a significant construction, basically. It's 6,000 square metres, is that correct? Am I right there? Louise, you? The
I'm going to defer to Colin on this one.
Colin, sorry?
Yeah, it's only 6,000.
So what's the proposed building like? We're not at that stage yet.
I can't remember. Probably pretty much half of that.
Right, so it's significant, yeah. And there wouldn't be any plans to have some sort of a kiosk / cafe built into there? No?
Not questions, and equally, they're not questions that we can answer, given that most of the work in the full bill is to be undertaken by the Victorian Health Building Authority. And we have raised concerns and are continuing to follow communications with the Department of Health to not just encourage them, but require them to connect effectively with people in this community about what they're proposing to build. And that has not happened yet.
These models are historically and continuing to be a cookie cutter model. What you get here is what you get there. We've actively argued that we need something relevant for our community.
So they're asking for your opinion, but they're really considering it.
Asking for an opinion when you have narrowed the field to one without a conversation about what the alternatives might be or what the need would be that would drive the choice makes it really hard.
So let's pretend that they were open to this conversation and they had taken on board a suggestion for what I just said or to. Would that actually help alleviate the issue or part of the problem from the location point of view? Let's say they said, yeah, no, you're right, we will put some sort of a cafe in there, running internally or whatever model they choose. Would that go a fair distance into alleviating concerns?
In part, but what we are talking about is further medicalising the model of delivery. So if you create a facility within a facility which says to people, you're here to be treated, rather than you're here as part of the community, you're still connected to that community and where you're going to go from it. In part, some of the therapeutic value of being genuinely embedded in places where you can walk freely and connect quickly to the rest of the community kind of defeats the purpose if you're trying to do all of that on the same site.
Yeah, thanks, David. I'm a bit confused about this situation has been given to us as a good situation. Our role is to provide at a very no cost some land. I would have thought that those groups, including your own and the government, before it got to this point, would have some sort of commonality as to the criteria, where the meat is sandwiched. Now, so on one hand, the government is saying this is the U-Butte, ticks boxes, and coal, you've told us, it ticks the box. Then we've got you folk telling us that it goes nowhere near what we need, and we need to be in the middle of town. So I don't quite know where I sit with this. I understand I can't understand why we've got this far without all the groups, whatever groups they are, getting together and coming to the council and saying, this is the joint criteria, what's on offer? Because we can only offer land that we've got, FOC, commercial stuff is, the investors, and it becomes too big. So, that's more statements than questions. But have you not, tell me what...
They're excellent questions, Councillor, and the challenge that we have is that in part we feel like we've been doing that for an awfully long time. When I arrived in Shepparton in 2010, I joined this conversation very early in my tenure. In fact, in the first couple of months of being CEO at Family Care, I heard about the importance of having an early parenting centre.
Yep.
And that's why we joined enthusiastically the research that went on to determine what such a centre would look like, what Shepparton needed, where it would be best located. We invested a significant amount of time and resource into those conversations that produced two very long and detailed reports that are annexures to our submission. And those reports made some very pointed and direct comments about location. Those things weren't taken up by government at the time, but that wasn't for the want of trying. We peddled that information anywhere that anyone would listen, including to the Department of Health. A conversation, though, requires communication coming back from the other direction, and it's simply important. So we're here today to say that we're still here, that we still want to have that conversation. It's been very difficult to be involved in that.
And we have the community has a shared view about what this looks like. We've been working on that for decades, and those reports are indicative of that.
Yeah, and I empathise with that. So here we go. If we go with the government job, we go down to Parkside Drive, where do all you guys stand? Would you say, well, we didn't win that, well, we better join the pros? But if we say to the government, no, we're going to knock back Parkside Drive because our local people don't want it there, they're going to say, well, blow you, we'll go on to the next town and, we'll put the facility in there and Shepparton won't get anything. So, where do we sit with all this?
What I might do is just pause it there, because I think that is the crux of the challenge that we're all feeling right now. And I might make sure that Susanna has the chance to do her public presentation, which might address some of this, and then we might be able to continue that conversation. So then I'll pass it over.
So now, Sam, just before, could you just confirm, clarify what Jeff said? Are we giving this land for free, or are we?
No,
We're not?
we're not at that stage. So we have a valuation on the land, and that's where it stands at the moment. Any determination around the cost is not been determined.
But there will be a sale price involved here.
I mean, ultimately that's with councillors. Officers have provided a valuation of the land.
Just to be clear on that, so we understand.
So it'll be sold at market value, in other words.
Potentially.
At this stage.
I'm sorry, I thought it was like the other housing.
No, I'm sure that love that, but that's a decision for councillors.
No, but the criteria is that it's at market value. The land is at market value.
Yeah, value general needs to do a value.
Yeah, thank you. Sorry, I've misled.
Sorry,
That's okay, that was important.
Thank you very much, Councillor Spinks and everyone, for the opportunity to address you on this. Given that David's given a very fulsome indication of the problems with location, I might just go a bit to the history of this, because it's a long history. It really goes back to the building of the children's ward in 1989, and that was a community fundraiser that raised so much money, there was a whole lot left over. So the Goulburn Valley Health Foundation was established to look after that money, and it was put aside for children and mothers. And so the focus of the foundation was to establish a mother-baby unit in Shepparton, so that it was residential and looked like probably Tweddle, Queen Elizabeth, but so many of our families had to travel elsewhere to get those services. So for all these years, and I've been on the foundation for about 30 years, we've grown and grown the corpus of that to about $1.5 million still in a separate fund, and that's not the rest of all the other money we have for other purposes for the hospital. But it was there, and so in a way the foundation was sort of the vehicle for keeping the conversation alive. And you probably know Dr. Peter Easter was the Director of Paediatrics for 30 years at Goulburn Valley Health, and adamant, along with some of the senior nurses in the children's ward over those years, that the need for somewhere to go that's not hospital, it's not medical, it's not like that, for young parents to have to support them in those early times that David has spoken of. So once we got to $1.5 million, we thought we could buy the land for this. And once we bought the land, we've got a pretty good argument for looking for funding and going on with it. It was always intended that we would buy it close into the CBD area, and that it, as time went on, that it would be close to the Hunter Community Health Centre, because there they have a whole range of community health services, drug and alcohol, early childhood. The Children and Young Persons Hub is now located there. So there's such a logic to that connectivity of services, not to mention family care and so many other services that are located in the inner area, primary health care, Headspace, the Bridge. All of these services are actually quite close into the CBD. So that was the vision always. To address you to some extent, Councillor Dobson, the first time we found out about Parkside Drive as a location was the expressions of interest in the paper, and just by chance we saw it. I mean, it's unbelievable to consider that we've had a pivotal group going in this community for probably 10 to 15 years, as well as the advocates who always wanted it since, you know, the late 80s. Not to be consulted at all, not to even have a clue that it had gone down this path until we saw the expression of interest notice in the paper. So you can imagine our surprise and disappointment when it just departed so much from the vision. And I've been to Tweddle and these other places over the years to look at what sort of service we might want to have in Shepparton, and of course this is just so, to me it's remote, and it's remote from all the things that you really need to make it a good service. I'm conscious that you know, this Greater Shepparton City Council has had such a strong commitment to early childhood from very early on. It provides maternal and child health services, kindergartens, it's supported Best Start for many, many years, and it has also been a really strong supporter throughout every budget submission while I was in Parliament for a mother baby unit, as we called it at the time. And when the first funding came through for 10 services, Shepparton was not on the list. It was just a late grab in 2021-22, I think, the budget. And 25 million was way beyond our expectations. So it actually lends itself to a very substantial and considerable building and unit that has something to offer this community well into the future for so long, for a whole range of early childhood services and for that connectedness to the community. So often we don't get it right, and my concern now is that we're in a position where the Department of Health have come to you guys looking for, help us out finding a location. They didn't come to any of us at all. And of course you've proposed something that's a perfectly reasonable option as far as you're concerned, and it's ideal for housing for hospital staff. But for the early childhood centre, it doesn't meet any of the criteria that we as a community had envisioned for this centre. So I think probably the reason that I'm here today is to try and persuade you to get on board and let's have a serious conversation about where it could be. I've provided the Department of Health with another location in Wyndham Street. I don't think they're genuinely engaged in it, and as long as you look like you're, an easy target, if I might say that, and they've got a good piece of land they could easily get, possibly at a lower price than market value, then they'll just grab it, because the advocacy won't be there if we don't all try and do something about it. And in a way, we're just voices of individuals and organisations now, but you are a significant player in this, not only because you own the land that they want, but also because you're really at the forefront of so many early childhood services in this region. And I don't think for a minute anyone here has any ill will or misunderstanding in relation to that, in relation to the need for good early childhood services. But I do feel like the department's probably come in and spun you a story about how great this will be, and that's a great location, and there's a whole lot of reasons why it would suit them. They say they've looked at many sites. They tell us they've looked at many sites. I don't know a real estate agent or a developer that I've spoken to that they have contacted and sought information from. And I've contacted a few to see whether they've got any suitable sites, and one of them is in discussions at the moment. But I'm concerned that there's a really lack of genuine engagement there, because at the moment they've got an easy call on this one. So I suppose my ask is, please hold off making a decision on this at least, so that we get to the point of really engaging in a proper discussion. And in a way, you have the leverage. We don't have much leverage, but you have the leverage as a council to say, well, we want to know what the community really wants, and we're hearing that it's not suitable, so let's have a hard look at where else perhaps we could locate it. And I accept that we don't want to lose it. We don't want the government just to take it back. I know Jeff's thinking about a drug centre that went to Wangaratta because we couldn't get agreement on where it should be, and we don't want that to happen. But I think there's room for just some serious, genuine consultation to try and persuade everyone that we do deserve this centre to be located in the right spot, and that it fulfils the vision that this community has really had for a very long time.
Thank you. So keeping in mind, councillors, that we only have 3 minutes left on this agenda item, and noting that we will absolutely make time for us as a group and council staff to have these discussions. It's just a moment to clarify any points with our presenters, but we do have people with their hands up. So Seema, I see you out the back with your hands up.
Actually, no, I think my question was asked by Jeff about what options are there, but I also just want to put it out there that Susanna, you raised a very pertinent point about community consultation, and Anne is here. In our Best Ideas Alliance meetings, we have continuously advocated for a genuine community consultation. So. And that's what I've shared with all of my colleagues, that the community consultation part was something that GB Health was very aware of, that request. So I think we have to look at it from all angles. Sorry, I'll stop here.
Brilliant, thank you, Seema. Yeah, Bro?
Again, very, very briefly. Thank you, David. Thank you, Anne. Thank you, Susanna. Really appreciate it. You are correct in the sense that Greater Shepparton has had a long undertaken early childhood, or early as well. And initially coming into this, I was thinking, well, wouldn't any location be a better location than no location at all? However, I did read the report and submission that you put in, and in great detail. The issue really does lie in a sense with Parkside Health in terms of what they presented to us. Obviously, we accommodate the submissions and we list the objectives, and certainly locally, that seems to be supported in the region there, but obviously listening to very well credentialed and well respected objectors who have got skin in the game and who have been dealing with this for some time, it seems a lot of weight in my opinion. I guess a lot of the questions will go to Parkside Health that I do have, but I think, Suzanne, can I just clarify that if, for instance, the location was in council owned some property in Edward Street, it would be ideal in terms of amenities and locality, etc. Am I reading that right?
Look. If you look at a few vacant lots, there's Don Phillips Old Winery. There's land behind Latrobe. And there may be reasons why none of those are available. There's one down near the railway line at the end of Johnson Street on Hayes Street. There's other vacant property which no doubt commands a considerable price. I don't want you to think this is Golden Valley Health's decision or that it's Matt Sharp's decision. A lot of us are not really, we're finding that a lot of us are not being consulted about a lot of aspects of this centre. And so it's a Department of Health in Melbourne, Victorian Health Building Authority's decision, all of this. This is, I don't think that this is something that Golden Valley Health are wanting to promote particularly. I think it's predominantly coming out of Melbourne, and I dare say very few have come from there to have a look at where it is and to discuss any of the other options. But again, we don't want to scupper the whole thing either by, but I don't think we will. I think that's sort of a bit of a fear campaign that might be out there, that we'll lose it if we don't accept what they say first up. I think there has to be genuine consultation, and that you have the power.
Thank you for the clarification.
Yeah.
Excellent.
I really enjoyed your submission, David. Thank you for that detail. It really sold me more so on the need for this facility. And just to clarify, you're saying that this proposal doesn't tick any of the criteria. Is that a correct statement, or is it mostly just the location?
It's mostly the location. I'm very disappointed that they're proposing that it would be 4 days a week. Like, if you're a mother or parents with issues and they tip you out on Friday lunchtime, your issues don't go away. If you're a 17-year-old with 2 little children and a whole lot of lactation, I mean, it's inconceivable to me that this hasn't been thought through better. But the location down there will be so unconnected from all the other services and amenities.
And Fern, sorry, can I just say, short version perspective, we absolutely want the EPC.
Yeah.
There's no question about that. We absolutely want it.
We do not have the
We
same
don't want the
political
location.
leverage that we had while you were in Parliament, and there's a lot of debt, and there's a lot of short tempers.
We've got the money though.
Yeah, it's
We
25
might have the money, but do we have the political will to, and given it's such a short stay, how important is it to be connected to services? Because it just depends on what we value. I mean, me personally, I would not go get a coffee if I had a newborn. I would prefer to be in nature and having access to walking tracks and things like that. There's nothing precluding a shuttle bus, nothing precluding relocation at a later date if that does fall over and a location is completely inappropriate. But my understanding now is that we really need this. And I'm so sorry you found that in the paper. That must have been kicking guts. Extremely disappointing. You guys deserve to see this. But from a council perspective, I just don't think I could object based on assumptions about what people need in the middle of town when there could be just as good out in nature.
Not assumptions, Fern, some fairly strong evidence, which is in those submissions and those papers. We know what works in this space.
So for a 4-day stay, it's absolutely essential for them to have access to town walking distance.
They might be there for 3 weeks, mightn't they? It's just that the service that the department is looking at is in and out and in and out. You don't get better in 4 days. There's a whole range of sort of services. You might be there for 1 day, for 2 days, for 3, but for people there are many people in our community who go to Tweddle or Queen Elizabeth for 2 or 3 weeks a month even to take care of the immense issues that they're facing.
Just one, but personally, I can't see how, unless it's months on end, I can't see how that would be a deal breaker.
Thank you, Fern. That will inform your debate when we come to make a decision. Thank you for adding that. I will pull it up there. Ben, I can see you writing the script, so I'll quickly let you do the last task.
Thanks, Anne. Thanks for your presentation and sorry for being late. My main concern is the drowning risk more so than the lack of CBD prominence. Much like the drug rehab site getting passed around due to NIMBY, not in my backyard, I'd hate to see this project get overlooked. Where is your first preference for the site?
Well, I mean, in terms of what's available, a bit of flexibility. I mean, they're saying they need 5,900 square metres. That's a lot of land. There's a couple of sites that could be considered. The one down the end of Hay Street, there's one in Wyndham Street that's in walking distance of Sam and really the CBD, and there's footpath all the way, and it's all conceivable. And there's the Phillips Winery, but gee whiz, they'd have to think about going 2-storey. Imagine that. Like the inflexibility is mind-boggling, and I think we've got to go back and work hard on talking about what this community really needs, not what other places have done. Mind you, other places are much better located than anything like Parkside Drive.
Thank you.
If I could just, Councillor, the service and family care currently offers and has been delivering for 30 years, which is a day-stay service, but a component of what would be included in a parenting centre model, is located at 15 Wellsford Street. And that site was deliberately chosen because of its proximity to other services and facilities in town. And it is part of the delivery model.
And on that note, the Hunter building obviously was chosen as central for all the same reasons.
Of course, yeah. Thank you. We appreciate you all coming in to share that with us. It helps to inform our decision making, and it's a really essential part of the process. So I thank you all for coming in to give us your time this morning. And I'm sure if there are any follow-up questions or clarifying points from councillors, we'll be able to pass them through the relevant channels to you to make sure we still get those addressed. So thank you so much for your time this morning. We really appreciate